As I continue to explore life, I try to look at it so that I can see what is the spiritual and what is the divine. And what I realize, you can't separate them. Because everything that is human is divine. Everything that is divine is human. There's no separation. But our minds aren't meant to think like that. And so I go into the place like that. When I get into a deep meditation, like this morning when I was doing my meditation and I lost myself, I came out of it. I said, where have I been? Didn't know where I was. That means I was in a place I wasn't there. Because if you're aware that you're in a state of meditation, you're not in meditation. Does that make sense? That's the fallacy of it. So when you wake up, well, that's when you're sleeping. You come out of it, you say, whoa. And then you say, but wait a second, I'm in this world. So how do we blend them? And what I've come to understand is the whole idea is, how do we, knowing that our minds create, how do we consciously start to live toward what we want? And one of the things that I understand is, being that we're living here in the Metroplex, we've got what, 7 million people? 7.5 billion people on the planet. We're being bombarded by all of that influence. Everywhere we go, we're bombarded by that influence. And so we're being affected by it. And so the energy field that I am, normally your energy field goes out about 2 feet. Sometimes you can project it out more, depending on how aware you are, but your energy field goes around you about 2 feet. So when you're walking in the world, people are going to come close to you. Their energy field is going to bump into your energy field. And depending on how strong you are, you may start to absorb that energy, right? And it may not be the energy you want in your life. So what do you got to do? You got to build boundaries. In this world today, we've got to build boundaries. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. How to create healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries. Not negative boundaries, not destructive boundaries, but healthy boundaries. Okay? Boundaries are defined as where you end and others begin. They create limits between you and others and allow you to be your authentic self. Do you get that? Because if you don't have boundaries and people are coming in, you may be subordinating yourself to the energy that they are, and when you're subordinating yourself to them, you're not authentic. Because anytime you're not fully you and you're trying to please someone else, that's not authentic. I'm going to give you a key. I thought that when I got married on June 17th, 1972, in that very moment, my wife's job for the rest of her life was to please me. Now, can you imagine how that worked? Has anyone here been in relationship and felt that that was their partner's job to do? Everybody. Because we're brainwashed into thinking that you complete me. You make me whole. Think about all the great rock songs and the lyrics of the rock songs. Boy, they're brainwashing us too, aren't they? Oh my God, I think about them. This morning I was listening to Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. And I'm thinking into the lyrics of that, and that's one of my favorite songs in the world. And I'm listening to that and I'm going, whoa. There's some brainwashing happening in there. So anyway, let's look at it a little differently. We set healthy boundaries when we develop an understanding of who we are, including our strengths and weaknesses. Do you notice that a healthy boundary is when we understand who we are? So let's go into this again. Who are we? Infinite. Decides it's going to individualize itself. It out of itself creates infinite expressions. I am one of those expressions. You are one of those expressions. What did it create me out of? What did it create you out of? Obviously, itself. Because there's nothing else to create from. Why? Because it's infinite. Being infinite, there's nothing other than it. You know what notice I'm not saying he. I'm not saying she. Because those are human terms. This is an it. Whatever it is, and it's beyond description. We like to think of God the Father because we want to be nurtured by that infinite presence. We think of God the Mother, how she's so gentle. Well, it has all of those qualities. I'm trying to take out the idea of anthropomorphizing God. In other words, giving God human qualities. That's not what happened here. Remember, the infinite individualized itself as us. It created us and gave us its qualities, not vice versa. You see, we got that backward. That's where religion gets it backward. It keeps thinking that God is going to judge us. God is going to take care of us. I'm going to share something with you. I've said this before. God doesn't care. Do you hear that? God doesn't care. Why doesn't God care? Because God gave you everything in you to create anything you want in your life if you use what you've got in you. But you've got to awaken to the idea. And when Jesus came onto the planet, that's what he was teaching. He was teaching, it is done unto you as you believe. This I do, you can do, and more. It is the Father within you, the infinite power within you that is doing the creating. It's not your ego. So he understood these principles. And so he gave us the method to create, but we've bastardized it. And we've turned our power over. You've got to believe in the priest. You've got to have an intermediary. Well, I want you to know I'm your intermediary. And if you think that's going to help you, you are just crazy. Because you know what I'm going to say? Here's what you do. Do your own work. Because if you don't do your own work, nothing changes. Do you get that? It's all about us doing our own work all the time. In a way, it's a journey of being alone, but at the same time, it's a journey of supporting each other as we do this journey alone. Does that make sense? Boundaries help us make us and others feel safe, respective, and make it easier to function in the world. These two words are really, really important. I was talking with one of our youth girls, teenagers, and I said, so what's the most important thing that when you get in a relationship with a guy? She says, well, we communicate great. I said, that's really good. I love that. And I said, there's 3 other things that you need. I said, the first thing is, you got to be attracted to the person. It could be a mental, emotional, physical, it could be whatever it is, but you have to have an attraction to a person. Why? Because your energy will be attracted to a like energy, will it not? That's what you feel. You can have a beautiful person, a man or a woman walk by, and you'll feel nothing. Another woman walk by, and they're not as physically as we would define them that, and you'll be resonating right toward them. Why? Energy. Like energies bring us together, right? So you have to have an attraction. The next thing is, you have to feel safe. There's no other way to say that. I could go around here, and I know so many stories in this room, and I could tell you that right now, most of us are fighting the idea that we don't feel safe. And when we don't feel safe, we can't be authentic. Okay, now take it from the attitude of being safe. What is next? If I feel safe, now I want to be in a relationship that respects me, that honors me, that accepts me as I am, so I'm able to be authentic. I'm able to be me. I don't have to worry about my partner always trying to change me, and I have to please my partner by doing what my partner wants. That's nonsense. The second someone wants to change you, they're telling you, I've fallen in love with something that you're not, and I'm trying to change you to become that which you're not. Whoa, run. Not worth being in. And when you have that, doesn't that make it easier? If you feel safe with someone and they respect you and you know that you have a like energy and you can communicate, doesn't that make it easy? It's not hard. It's not this. If it's this, we know we're not doing those 4 things, right? So we got to pause. How many understand that pause is a key word? Before you're about to have a reaction, pause. Ask the question, what's my highest expression here? Is what I'm about to say, do, or whatever, is it going to serve me or not? Pausing is an incredible, deep spiritual practice, but we think it's got to be something like a miracle. I've got this sacred ritual. If you want to know a sacred ritual, come and I'll teach you all a different one. And you know why a ritual will work? Because you believe it. I could take my shoe off, give it to you, and say, if you put this shoe on your ear and you speak into it and listen, it's going to give you a divine answer. And you may laugh, but if you believe it, you're going to get it. Because the thing says, it is done unto you as you believe. It doesn't say believe in a specific way, it's whatever you believe. So if you come from whatever background that you come from, think about all the rituals you've been brought into and taught. Why do those rituals work for some and not for others? Belief. Are those rituals right or wrong? Neither. Depends on who you are and what you believe in. See, that's why there's no judgment. You get that? That's why we say, oh, the Muslims pray 5 times a day. They can't do that. Or the Hindus do this, or the Buddhists do this, or the Christians do this, or the Jewish do this, or the Jainists do this. No. Don't judge. If they believe and it works for them and it's not infringing on your rights, let them be. Let them be. Beatles song, Let It Be. Isn't it? Just flows, right? Let it be. So there are 5 types of boundaries. Material boundaries, physical boundaries, mental boundaries, emotional boundaries, and time boundaries. These are where we set boundaries in our life, okay? So with that in mind, let's look at them. Material boundaries evolve around sharing possessions and money. My stuff. I have some stuff, okay? You have some stuff. My phone is also my wallet, okay? That's mine. No one is allowed to go into my phone without my permission. My wife does not pick up my phone. She does not look at my cards, whatever in my wallet. She doesn't go on my phone for any reason whatsoever. Why? I've set a boundary. Guess what? I don't go into hers either. Why? We've set a boundary. Not because there's anything there, it's just a boundary. It also involves money. People ask about money, and I remember this is a big one. What do you do when your best friend wants money? I'll be honest with you, I've been taught don't lend money. I don't lend money. If a friend comes up to me and says, I need money, I may give them money, realizing that I'm never going to see it back. I have no intention of ever getting it back, but I'm never going to lend money to anyone. I'm not a bank. You don't see Lee Wolak Bank and Trust. And if you're thinking about agape, you don't see agape bank and trust, right? What does agape do? Agape teaches you how to better self-love through conscious living. We don't want you dependent on us. Why? We're teaching you how to be prosperous. We're teaching you how to be abundant. We're giving you the tools so that you can create your own life. So I set boundaries on my money. I have people that they all of a sudden they're down on their luck and they want to come and live with me. No. I have a boundary. My home is my sacred space. The only people in my home are my family. I'm very clear about that. That's a boundary. Now you may say, you may not like my boundary. That's too bad. It's my boundary. You see, when you set your boundaries and you're really clear about them, and let's take my home. That's a really good one. I have worked since September of 1987. Almost 32 years, Jean and I have worked on creating the most sacred environment in our home. And I'm not about to bring anything into that environment that will destroy the energy we've got created. Does that make sense? So if you're allowed in my home, that's a special thing to you. Why? Because I don't open my home up to just anyone. I have a boundary there. And when you come into the home, all the people that I bring in as guests that end up staying with us because I've asked them to stay with us, like when Terry McBride, a spiritual teacher, came in and stayed with us. He came into my home and he was there for 4 days. And he says, I've never felt such peace. Everywhere in your home, it's just peaceful. That's because we don't argue in our home. We don't go through all the crap in our home. If we have things like that, we do it outside of the home because the home is a sanctuary. Let's go into physical boundaries. Physical boundaries refer to whom, when, and how you allow someone into your space or touch you. We talked about that in the meet and greet, right? Some people are open to hugging immediately. There's some people, holy crap, 100 people to hug, let me go at it. Some people go, oh no. Some people go, if once I get to know you, I'll hug you. Is there a right way? No. You have to set your boundaries. That's why we tell you, stick your hand out if you don't want to hug right away. Set your boundary. If you want to hug, open up to it. Don't feel compelled to do anything because a group is doing it. Does that make sense? Don't fall in line. Don't get into the group mentality. Okay? How you want someone to touch you. If someone hugs you, let's just use that as an example. If someone hugs you and the way they're hugging you is not in alignment, tell them. Just simply say, I don't appreciate the way you hug me. Let me show you how I want to be hugged. What am I doing? I'm setting a boundary, aren't I? It's real simple. And if you're in an intimate relationship, you should be having a lot of conversations about how you want to be touched. Because you want to be touched in a way that is pleasing and yet respectful. Does that make sense? Because a lot of times with society out there, where are most young people getting their sex education today? Pornography. They're starting at age 12. They're on the internet. You don't even have to talk to the kids. They've already gotten just about everything they ever want. And what is pornography? It is not good because it's not respectful. In many ways, it's very, 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 very abusive. So you've got to teach your kids that that's not reality. That's a fantasy. And you've got to teach them what is reality. And their reality will be what they set for themselves. But you've got to teach them it's okay for you to have boundaries. That's the important thing. That's when I teach my granddaughter, I'll be teaching Claire about boundaries. She can make the decision, but her grandfather, my son will do it too, there's no doubt about it. But I'll do it as well. I'll reinforce that when she stays with me and he's not around. So 4th of July weekend, I have her with Jean for 4 days. 4 days, the boys are going down to Austin. Do you think we're going to fill that little girl with all sorts of stuff? Let's go on. Mental boundaries. Where you put your mental focus and knowing your limits on this. I want to be very honest with you. I'm not going to talk to you about politics. Guess what? In politics, nobody wins. Everyone in politics is already anchored into their own belief structure. So you're going to talk about it, and no one's going to believe anything. Why are you wasting your time? To me, it's wasted energy. What I look at when I see politics, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, what are my options when I vote? And I'll do my research. And I'll vote what best supports me and what is best for the majority of the people of the country. That's how I vote. What will best serve? When I'm looking at a candidate, I'm saying, do their views support the Constitution and a majority of the people of the country, or is it supporting a small segment? No, it should be for all. One nation, united. And we're all individualizations of God. We're not under God. We are individualizations of God. I don't like that idea of the words under God. Do you know in the Pledge of Allegiance, when they say one nation under God, that wasn't put into the Pledge of Allegiance until 1954? It was not put into the dollar bill until 1954. Prior to that, there was no mention of God. Why? Because we were founded on separation of church and state. And that's how it should be. Don't have to talk about God. You don't have to talk about this, but here's what you can do. Why don't you act like it? Why don't you act like it? I remember a song when I was in a Catholic school. It was, "And they'll know we are Christians by our love." When you're in the world, will people know that you're loving? Or will they know that you're judgmental? What is loving? What's the other word for loving, gang? Accept. Transfer, accept, and love. They're interchangeable. Get that into your brain. So when you say, I love you, it means I accept you as you are. If I say, I love you, except when you do that, you're judgmental. You're not loving. Love is either unconditional or it doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Because guess what? The divine doesn't judge. It accepts you just like you are. Emotional boundaries. protect your ability to separate your feelings from those of others. They protect us from not losing our identity in intimate relationships. This emotional thing, people will use emotions to hold you in blackmail. I mean, oh my God, I witness this all the time. Parents doing it to children. Using that whole emotional thing. What are emotions? They're responses that come up in our body to an outside stimulant, right? So what are they telling us? It's either telling us it's on our path or it's the way we don't want it. It's either a preference or it's a dislike. That's all an emotion is. How does it said in Hinduism, they talk about, as you look at life, the right eye is looking at the past, the left eye is looking at the future, the third eye sees everything in balance. The third eye is the divine eye. When you've got all this emotional response, you're either in the past or you're anticipating the future. That's where all the emotions come from. But in the divine, there's no emotion. That's why when you're tapped into that oneness, are you going to feel happy? I don't think it's a sense of happiness the way we define happiness, but rather it's a sense of completeness, of a connection that is indescribable, that there's no feeling that you can put to it. Time boundaries. I view these as the most important in our human existence because time is our most valuable resource. Only give time to what is serving your highest evolvement. I'll be very honest, where I put my time at Agape is what's going to serve the majority of the people better. And what you find out at Agape, not Agape, I'm going to take that back. You find out in most spiritual communities, most churches, the people who want the most time are the people that are less involved. I've got a boundary up there. I give a small amount of time to those that are not involved. I give a lot of time to those that are involved. Why? Because commitment matters. Doesn't it? If I'm married, Jean and I have committed to each other. Therefore, if she asks me anything, is she going to get whatever response she wants? Yes. She's my life partner. If a stranger walks up to me and I have to choose between being with that stranger and working out a need or a need that my wife is presenting, who wins? My wife. Because why? There's a commitment we've made. There's a connection we've got. And isn't that what life is about? It's about building deep relationships and commitment and connection. I think it is. So in a community like this gives us the ability to create in a safe place, in a place where we're respected, that type of environment so that we can experience it here and take it out into the world. So boundaries are the most important thing that we do for ourselves. It's important that we take time. We don't rush into making boundaries. Because you got to really ask questions about that. Jean and I have very, very few boundaries. I can hug you, but that's all she'll let me do. I use that as a joke because it's not that she will allow me to do. It's what I've chosen. I know better now. But a lot of times we don't think about that. We're not consciously living, and I think that's really the key thing. I know what my hierarchy of values are. We teach that here. We do workshops on that. And it takes time to get clarity on the hierarchy of values. The people in my mentor program know that, don't you, mentees? Because what's happened over 16 weeks, their values have become even more clear and they've changed considerably in their understanding of it. When you understand the hierarchy of your values, those top 5, 6 values that you've got, and you start living them, that's what you set your boundaries to. You don't let anyone come in and stop you. My number one value is spiritual self-actualization. That is my number one value. Anything that happens to me that challenges that from coming to fruition doesn't win. My number 2 value is teaching and speaking about how to better self-love through conscious living. I want to do that more than anything except my own individual connection. My next value after that is learning about human behavior. I love studying human behavior because we are worth studying. And there's some crazy stuff out there, folks. And I'm going to tell you, all of you here have some bizarre stories, and I know a lot of them, but I can't tell anyone because I'm a minister. And so I hear the stories and I say, isn't it fascinating how we go through this? My fourth value is building intimate relationships and community. My fifth value is being financially free to do what I want, when I want, how I want. Then I've got health and well-being, and then I've got traveling the world and experience other cultures. I look at those values, and I prioritize based on that, and I set boundaries based on that. If it doesn't fit into that hierarchy, I got a real boundary going on. Does that make sense? So I really organize my life around what I perceive as the most valuable to me, and I set boundaries around that. Okay? I'm going to ask you this question. Where is it that you need to set a boundary? Where is the first place that you really need to set a boundary in your life?
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.